Before that time.
It's the physics behind, for example,
Another
reactions,
question people
the
say
reaction, the actual change of
under
mass.
the ultimate question about
During
our
my father's courses for 7 years, the book was put together.
Welcome to the Scholar's Chair. Art is the expression of the application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as painting or sculpture. Producing art to be appreciated primarily for their beauty and emotional power. This definition characterizes the artwork of master painter, sculptor, and printmaker Pablo Picasso. Tonight we shall explore Pablo's work with art historian Pamela King from Prince George's Community College, and she is right here in the Scholar's Chair.
Let the conditions of inequality that we suffered under, when we are the oppressor, the dominant class, let's not impose that injustice on the others.
Anybody think that you could have a just system without giving women their rights?
Everyone has an opinion, and we sit around the marketplace and talk about opinion, but what is truth?
With the shareholder, their goal is similar to the business, to maximize profit.
That belief becomes a context for a development of knowledge.
Say physics is the DNA of technology because the rules for how you build new technology starts in physics.
Because Quran challenges the people. It's not only the people of the book, it challenges Muslims.
We say secular, they hear godless.
Right.
What was intended?
Watch the Scholar's Chair every Monday night. And here is your host.
Welcome, Professor King, to the Scholar's Chair. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Khalil. Glad to be here.
You know, I have been working on this definition for art, and I wanted to make that our first question. But some people feel that art is not worthy of an institutional learning process. You know, why are we teaching college student art?
It's an integral part of being a human being. We have artwork from 30, 40,000 BCE. There is something in human DNA that we have to make visual images and have been doing so ever since our species evolved. And so when we look at art, we're really looking at the production of mankind, and that's everybody's business.
Everybody's business. Well said. Well said. And Picasso has some very interesting ideas about art. Obviously, he did about 50,000 pieces, right? And I read that several thousand of them were paintings, and that's what we're going to take this journey with you to kind of explain it all to us and to give us a feeling for what we're looking at and kind of the texture and sizes and the style that he painted in. So, what do you think? What would Picasso's definition for art be? What do you think?
Well, I brought him a quote just so I'd be prepared. And Picasso himself said, "Art is a lie." A lie that enables us to realize the truth. Some people have always said that artists have a different way of looking at the world, and how they look helps us see the world anew. And they have an idea of how to express themselves, but they also end up expressing their time, but it's relevant outside of their time, therefore for us as well.
Interesting. Picasso sets up or make a huge contribution to the modern art movement. I want to just kind of go through one of his earlier paintings, paintings that he did, I'm told, at the age of 20. It is the first slide, gentlemen, if you could show us Picasso. Here we go with painting number 1. This painting was painted by Picasso in 1920 or 1921. 1901. Thank you. And it is one of the first ones that he does, right? It's one of his earlier paintings.
It's a very early painting. It's an early painting when he's just come to Paris. Picasso's a Spanish artist, and although he spent most of his life in Paris or in France, he was always a Spaniard and identified with his home country. He was born in Malaga, which is on the Mediterranean coast of Spain.
Okay.
And his father was an art teacher.
Ah.
Apparently not a very good artist, but a very good teacher.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Picasso goes on to Barcelona Academy and studies. But as a very young man, 20 years old when he's doing this work, he's come to the art capital of the world at that time. He's come to Paris to study, to learn, to make his fortune, all of which he does. When we look at Girl with a Dove, it's not revolutionary for 1901.
Are we looking at it? David, let's see it. There. This is Girl with a Dove, right? And she's holding it. Talk to us about it. What's going on with this painting in terms of structure?
Structure, what he is learning, what he's seeing, is the roots of what we think of with modern art, of having a somewhat indistinct background, of having space compressed. He has actually colors that are descriptive, which is something he's going to get away from, something other artists are going to get away from very quickly from 1901.
And he's still in figurative art, as we were.
And he never, believe it or not, never really gives up the figure. He always starts from something. It may not be always recognizable, but the source is always the world around him. And this is actually a very sweet look at a little girl, something we don't think of right away with Picasso, such a gentle subject matter.
It is a very, very tender piece. Let's take a look at slide 3, David. This is the old guitarist. Picasso has painted it in 1903. This is also oil on canvas. And we have quite a different expression here than the first piece. Explain to us, why is Picasso painting in such a blue mood?
And we call it the blue period.
Yes.
It dominates his palette, the general colors that he's using.
Yes.
We're only come 3 years since The Girl with the Dove, but he has been through a lot in the big city in 3 years. He's poor.
Yes.
He meets fellow-minded poets, painters, and cafe scene, joins up with folks, enjoys a very good friendship, and the man kills himself in the cafe in front of Picasso, gun to the head, blows his brains out.
Was this one of his friends?
Yes, his best friend. And what we think of the blues, it was depression for a couple of years. And visually, Picasso's limiting his palette to that cool color and very angular figures. They don't flow one part of the figure into another.
This is not nicey cutesy kind of.
It's not tender. It's not sympathetic. Maybe sympathetic, but it's completely honest in showing the degradation that he would have seen around him and probably at some time felt himself.
Yes, yes.
And the idea of a guitar player is very much connected with those Spanish roots that he has.
I like this painting, and it's one of the paintings I thought expressed that, as you said, an honest emotional state. So let's get to the next slide. The wonderful ladies of Paris here. He originally called it the brothel of Avignon. Am I saying it right?
Les Demoiselles d'Avignon is a brothel in Spain, actually.
Yes.
And it's the end of traditional way of looking and the beginning of what we think of with modern art.
Yes.
It is a complete break from history.
Yes.
Even in the blue period with the guitarist, the earlier work with The Girl with the Dove, we have a window into a three-dimensional world, an illusion into another space, and that is cut off with Demoiselles. And he is breaking up the space. He's looking at it differently. that Renaissance idea of a picture into a whole new world, and it looks in the work quite literally shattered.
Yes.
The glass has
Well
been
said.
broken.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's not an especially appealing painting. You would think it's an erotic subject.
Yes, yes.
But these women are, I would say, toughened by their careers
Yes,
choice.
yes.
They're confrontational.
Yes.
They're
They
in
look
your
right at you,
face.
yes, yes.
And they break down visually that space between you and them.
Yes, yes. There are some historians say that there was not a movement or art element that is in harmony with each other. So it is completely broken, as you said. Yeah.
Breaking from the past.
Yeah.
But also the new influences that we see in it, his interest and other artists as well in the art of Africa and Oceania is a new idea, a new way of seeing into European art, not just Picasso and not just in France or Spain, but throughout Europe. So we see the figures on the right side of the painting. He's adopted African masks.
Yes.
We have some of the same angularity as the guitar player, but we don't have the space.
Yes, yes.
It's the beginnings, the inklings of what's to come with Cubism.
Yes.
And here in 1907, he's moving quickly.
Yes.
We can see the future in this painting.
Yes. I love the painting. It's one of my favorite Picasso paintings. It's just a beautiful piece of artwork for me. We are going to look at the next slide and talk about My Jolie. And it is a painting that's pretty small, actually, compared to Picasso's work that he's done. It looks like 36 by 25 inches, which just seems to be
Pretty
a small...
standard easel size
Really?
painting.
It's a standard size. But Picasso is painting usually on 9 feet, it seems to me.
Demoiselles is unusually large. It's about 6 feet
Yeah,
tall.
yeah.
This is a more standard size,
Yeah.
but the way it's painted is not standard in any way.
Do we have it up? Do we have it up, David, so our audience can see it? This particular painting is called part of the Impressionist movement, obviously, or the Cubist movement.
It's the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of Cubism.
Yeah.
With Picasso, with his friend Georges Braque,
Right.
invented Cubism.
Yes.
It's in 2 phases. This is the first, Analytic Cubism.
Analytic
We have limited palette, earth tones, and what looks like it doesn't depict anything actually did. Ma jolie means my pretty. And this was done of his girlfriend at the time.
This is an actual figure in here?
Yes, and she's playing a guitar. And Ma jolie, he called her that. It's kind of like saying sweetie or sweetheart. But it was also a popular tune of the day. And Picasso alludes to that. If you look very closely in the bottom right, you can see a treble clef and some staff music.
Okay.
And you should see some lines in the center, vertical lines, and that's the strings of the guitar.
I love this piece. It is such a departure from what is going on. And it offers us a different way of looking at the world of art.
That's it. What they wanted to do, besides simplifying the figure to basic geometric shapes, is to show it from different angles, profile, front, left, right, at the same time. So it's almost like they flattened out space and don't have that three-dimensional illusion that artists had striven for and successfully produced for 500 years. There'd been movement in the late 19th, early 20th century where critics, artists are saying it's a piece of cloth with paint on it. It's a two-dimensional thing. Let's celebrate its two-dimensionality and forget giving us the illusion of a three-dimensional world beyond. That, in their way of thinking, is false because it's a flat thing, so let it be flat. And with Cubism, it carries on with that two-dimensionality of the form, but it's a different way of looking at the form. It's not just making it flat, It's taking it apart and spreading it out on that two-dimensional surface.
I
and
think
not
this
to be
is
distracted by color.
Yes.
We like color.
We do like color.
Human beings,
right?
we like color.
That's right.
It's attractive, we're attracted to it. And they wanted to take that element out. It's a very intellectual approach to form, to space, and to color itself.
So it's intellectual from the standpoint that the artist is thinking about it and shaping these forms and to arrange and organize the canvas, and is kind of asking the viewer to review it and restructure it and come up with their own painting. Is that the idea?
No.
I love it. Did I fail the test, teacher?
No, E for effort. I don't think they're that concerned with the audience. It's my personal opinion.
Gotcha.
But it's very closed in. They're working out an exercise. They're developing a new way to look at the world. They're defining their vision of that world.
Yes.
It turns out the public and general viewership went crazy for it. And it made Picasso's name, it made him rich, and influenced, if you think about all those angles and geometry, what's coming up in graphic design, what's coming up in architecture, what's coming up in clothing design and jewelry design, Art Deco.
Yes.
Bingo.
I
A
love
big
it.
impetus.
a big way
Those
forward.
clean geometric lines.
Yes. And I think
There you
the
go.
next painting actually builds on that idea. Historians call it a cubist style. Our next slide would be of that painting, the three musicians.
This is that other kind of cubism. The first is analytic, limited palette, break up the figure. And then again, Picasso's in partnership with Braque. We like to think of synthetic cubism. Okay, analytic cubism, we took it all apart. Let's put it back together. Simplify it and add color. It's still emphasizing that two-dimensional flat surface. Tends to be, and I don't mean it derogative way, decorative.
Yes.
That's color, partially, and very simplified form.
So just look good in the house, so to speak.
Oh, they all would.
Yeah, I think
They
that's
all
true.
would. I think because of the color, the synthetic, the later, the three musicians is more approachable.
Yeah.
The forms are still abstracted, but more recognizable. You don't have to go through that sea of line and shape and say, is something really in there or not?
Right.
We can see three musicians.
Yeah.
We can see three men, we can see a dog.
He is definitely meeting his audience halfway on this one, because I love the study in color in this very much.
What is the first part? Take it apart, put it back together.
Put it back together. Let's take a look at slide number 7. This one is called the bird cage, and this is also full of color.
It is.
Yeah.
1923. It's a little bit later than the three musicians. I don't know this painting very well.
Yeah. But this is also, again, looking at it, it's a total abandonment of the figure. It almost looked like a paper collage.
And that's a good point, because a little bit earlier, Picasso and Braque invented the art collage before the synthetic cubism. And this is part of it. And combining different materials in the canvas. Paper collage, not just always paper, but with paint in combination with things. But the synthetic cubism lends itself to that kind of appreciation, that you have layers of shapes next to each other, on top of each other, working in concert with each other, and the pieces creating the whole image. But it's very flat.
Yes.
It's as if the world has been tipped up, so that we can see every different aspect of it, which still comes out of cubism. Let's look at all parts at the same time.
And I love it. I think I would buy this painting. It's a beautiful piece.
I only hope you can afford it one day.
All right, you're right. And you mentioned something about cost of Picasso's paintings early on. I think it was one of the early. Oh yeah, it was the
Girl with the Dove.
Yeah.
just a couple years ago was sold
Yeah.
for £50 million.
Yes. Yes. And this is American money is
The American money, 65 million,
right.
something like that.
Right.
But they've gone for more.
Yes, it's almost the cost of my house. Our next painting is these three musicians, David. If you could show us that one. This one was completed in 1925, and it's called the three dancers, David. If I've confused you, but this painting is also, as we have been talking, very flat, very colorful painting. It is trying to compress time and space. As I think this is going on throughout Europe, definitely the modernization of the world around them. There's now jet planes, and of course we have, as we had talked about earlier, Einstein's theory of relativity.
And that starts early with the earlier thing in the 1920s. Now we're post World War I.
That's right.
The war to end all wars that ended any nostalgia or optimism of the 19th century. You have planes, you have machine guns, you have tanks, you have barbed wire, you have the machine gun, you have millions of people dying in France, and Picasso is there.
Yes.
And it changed an artist, they're people too.
Yes.
What's happening around them influences their work. Luckily, Picasso came out well. He's still not only on top of his game, but is still popular with the public. And he's become very rich, very settled, and become a pop star.
Yes.
You know, he's been in Paris now for over 20 years. And the durability of cubism and its variations has served him very well. But it hasn't stunted what he's trying to do. He's looking at other things that are going on. He goes through a classical phase. A lot of artists post-World War I do.
Yeah.
And they've been through this carnage and this hell and trying to recall maybe more idyllic time of classical way of thinking. Three-dimensional spaces there, fully rounded figures, nobody's broken up. And it's kind of a return to a comfort zone. And some of it lingers. If you look at this, also recalls that event that we talked about earlier with the blue guitarist.
Yes.
That very good friend who tried to kill his lover, only grazed her, and killed himself. And then there's another woman or man involved in that. If you look very closely, the color says pretty, but is it a Dionysic dance? Is it revelers? Or is it a dance of death? Look at the figure in the center on the left side. Again, influence from non-Western sources, Oceania, but that's not an especially pleasing face.
Well, that's very true.
It gives you a clue something else is going on here. But the stretching and playing with the figure is not so much the neoclassical, but surrealism that's going on at the time. It's really the hot ticket in Paris in the 20s. And it's the world of not what you see, not what you think you see, but it's the inner space that they're exploring. It's the idea of, you've been through hell, convention does not work.
Yes.
Exploring the psyche. The
internal person.
The internal person. And the unconscious part of it. Letting chance come into things, a manipulation of form. It's expressive to a degree, like the guitarist. But this manipulation of the form is given license by a new trend that's going on.
I love it. It is something that our audience, I think, will greatly appreciate. I want to, because we have 5 minutes left, I want to go to slide number 10, David, the nude green leaf and bust by Picasso, and because I want to get to the last painting, but I want to discuss that with you. This particular painting, David, is, if you would put it up for us. This particular painting, they did get, this particular version of it did get most of the painting in, but there is a lot of brown in this painting that's at the top and at the bottom that kind of balance out the painting. In this form, in the reproductive form, we lose a lot of it. But this painting is approximately 64 inches by 51 inches, and it's all, again, oil on canvas. Tell us about this painting. This is done a little later, in 1932.
1932, I'm going to turn it, how does it make you feel when you look at it?
This one reminds me, of course, a very intimate scene between man and a woman, and it reminds me of the environment that it's generally a very private moment, because it looks to me that it's a curtain that is behind there, and he just strips everything down to the bare essence of the experience, and he flattens everything out.
Is it pleasant?
I would think it's pleasant. Yeah.
It's not aggressive like the Demoiselles.
No.
It's not frenzied like the dancers. This is Picasso in love once again. And this is, I can't even remember which mistress this is.
I think he was he loved the ladies.
He loved the ladies all his life, and he lived to be 90 years old.
Yes.
And he started his first drawings when he was 8 years old. And he's working all the way through. We've got at least 75 years of his work.
Yes.
So 1932, it's optimistic, it's sensuous. We don't have fragmented lines colliding. We've got a smooth flowing curves defining the woman's body, and she's asleep. And we are the kind of observers, but don't feel dirty about it.
Right.
We're not the voyeurs. We're not looking at a brothel scene. We're looking at happiness.
Yeah, calmness and maybe relaxation, and very private and
sensuous.
Yes, I agree with that. You know, I want to go to. I know won't get to all of it, but let's just talk about the Weeping Woman, David. If you can show us that slide. This is also a smaller painting in Picasso standard, 23 by 19. It was painted in 1937, which is a little later than the painting.
It's critical time for Picasso, and the Weeping Woman, is related to the last work we're going to talk about, the Guernica. Picasso's honored by Spain to be the artistic representation in the Spanish pavilion for an international exhibition.
Beautiful.
In Paris.
Let's show that painting. David, the next slide, please. This particular painting is world famous, and a reproduction of it doesn't come nowhere near expressing the power of this painting.
It's a huge painting. And the subject came later to Picasso and is taken, literally ripped from the headlines.
Yes.
It's the time of the Spanish Civil War, and Franco is in cahoots with Hitler and Mussolini, and the Germans and the Italians oblige with bombs of a small town called Guernica in the Basque region of Spain, which was not pro-Franco, was very much loyal to the Spaniard, and so they were taught a lesson, and 5,000 bombs were dropped on this little village on market day when it would be most populated, and over 1,600 people died.
We have a sad ending, but a beautiful painting.
But a beautiful painting that is so strong, and modernism serving social commentary.
Perfect. Let us end with that positive note. Well, that is another Scholar's Chair. Tonight we've been talking about the artwork of the master painter Pablo Picasso with art historian Pamela King. You can get a lot of Scholar's Chair in past episodes on Read One. YouTube, Read One Communications. And you can also follow us on Facebook, /Khalil Shadid. Have a pleasant evening and good night.
Hit it! Hit it!